What's up, North America? I am Dave DeBaugh, and thanks so much for tuning into the Underrated Pod. On tonight's show, we are going to talk about Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever going into Minnesota a little bit earlier in the day and taking down the Minnesota Lynx in what was really a home game, if you will, for the Indiana Fever. Now, we're talking about Caitlin Clark, so certainly there was some controversy, as you might imagine. We're going to get into some of that for you here in just a little bit. Now, you have to remember that Cheryl Reeve, the head coach of the Minnesota Lynx, is also the head coach of the USA basketball team, and clearly she would have had some say in who's actually on her roster. It is still absolutely crazy to me that the person that generated 2.1 million people actually showing up to watch the WNBA draft, let alone got over 700,000 first place votes for the WNBA All-Star game, not to mention all of the huge ratings that have come down the pike since she joined the league, would actually not be included on the actual USA basketball team. So some context in this story. We're going to go ahead and play the Cheryl Reeve video from before the game, and that's going to be followed up by a Caitlin Clark bit after the game. Go ahead and roll it.
It's all around the league. But as a coach of the home team, there's going to be a lot of people cheering for that other side.
I don't get two shits.
How about one?
Not even one shit.
Well, the fans are awesome, man. I mean, how many Fever fans were here? It seemed like a lot of Fever fans. Don't you think there were a lot of Fever fans here?
There were a lot of Fever fans.
Yeah, there were a lot of Fever fans. They were cheering, going crazy. A lot of people that probably supported when I was here playing with Iowa, but I don't know. It's a great venue. Target Center's awesome.
So clearly the thoughts of Cheryl Reeves before the game found their way actually into the Indiana Fever locker room. Now look, Caitlin Clark did not have her best game ever. I mean, she really certainly struggled for the first three quarters of the game. She did have a tremendous fourth quarter, scoring 10 points. That was 10 out of her 17 points actually came in the fourth quarter earlier in the day. Certainly was a key catalyst and driving force in the actual victory for the Indiana Fever today in Minnesota. 81-74 was the final. A huge day for Boston, who had 17 points and a career-high 16 boards. You know, it is amazing how well Kelsey Mitchell has also been playing. She put up 21 points in the game tonight. So basically what we have here is an Indiana Fever home game in the great state of Minnesota. A head coach who did not allow Caitlin Clark, for some strange, bizarre reason, the most popular women's basketball player on the planet, on her USA national basketball team for the upcoming Olympics. It was, if you will, a bit of a showdown. Now, of course, Caitlin Clark grew up in Des Moines, Iowa, which if you're from Minnesota like me, we just basically call Iowa a suburb. and so Caitlin Clark's favorite team growing up was, of course, the Lynx, and she spent a lot of time actually watching the Lynx play when she was a youngster. Look, this was a huge win for the Indiana Fever. Let's put this win in context. They are now 11-14 on the season. You have to remember, this is a team that was like 1-8 at one point. They have, as much as we rip on the job that the coaching staff has done, at the same time, you know, you have to give Chrissy Sides a little bit of credit for making sure at least this team has turned things around. Now, if I really wanted to be critical, I'm sure I could find some things wrong with the coaching in today's game, but that's not what this is about. for the most part, Christy Sides has done a nice job with this particular team. I'm not saying she's the right coach in the long run for this Indiana Fever team, but I am saying we should at least give her some credit. The fact that there are only 3 games under 500 with 1 game to go before the Olympic break is, quite frankly, impressive, and it's not something I thought we'd see, especially with the way Christy had been coaching early in the season. So we've got to give her some credit. Now, in terms of Caitlin Clark's comments after the game that we heard her say, and her actions after the game. I mean, she was running off the court. She took her shoes off and she gave them to a young lady in the stands who was wearing a Iowa, I believe an Iowa Hawkeye jersey. And you just have to give her a lot of credit. When you think about the amount of pressure that she's actually under, when you think about all that she has to deal with from game in and game out, she is, certainly very seasoned at this point as a professional. She has got her thing down to a T. She handles herself extremely well for somebody that is a rookie in a major sport. Now, she has been handling this pressure for several years, so it's not like this is new pressure for her. It's just interesting that city in and city out, there seems to be some sort of controversy that follows her. And in this particular case, there was certainly going to be something that was going to be made one way or another with Cheryl Reeve, the head coach of the Minnesota Lynx, who also is the head coach of the USA basketball team. But for her to actually say she didn't care how many Indiana Fever fans were actually at the game is absolutely comical when you're the head coach of a team and you are playing at home. Like, do you think the Los Angeles Clippers over the years and all those home games against the Los Angeles Lakers would have felt like they actually had an advantage? No. Do you think the teams that go into Madison Square Garden ever have an advantage over the New York Knicks because they have more fans there? And the answer to that question is no. Now, did the New York Knicks fans actually go into Philadelphia and buy up a bunch of seats and take over that arena earlier in the year against the 76ers? And the answer is absolutely yes. Look, some fan bases travel well. And the fan bases that ultimately travel well in both the NBA and in the WNBA are the ones that are truly passionate about their teams. There is nothing like a New York Knicks passionate fan base that's willing to buy out another team's arena. The same thing probably could be said about the Indiana Fever fans who are there to support Caitlin Clark, especially in a home game, which was as close to where she actually played her college ball. All right, North America, that is it for tonight's Underrated Pod. Please, go ahead and drop in your comments. I want to hear from you. I want to know what you have to say. And certainly, when you have a chance, do check out our big sports website at underrated.media. For the Underrated, I am Dave DeBaugh, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing day. To the guitar riffs we go.
You've been listening to the Underrated Podcast with Dave DeBaugh, presented by underrated.media.